Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Fired Up Friday with Tiff and I. And we are awesome. Sorry. We're happy to be here. To be able to chat and just have a moment of sanity or try to sort some of the crazy out that's been going on because it's been 2 weeks since we were here and a lot of things have unfolded since we were here last. I tell you, we were trying to catch up just before we came on. Like, are we forgetting anything? Is there? I mean, the rate of news and incidents that are happening, it's just as Kamala said, high velocity. It's just so frequent and so much. It's really hard sometimes to keep up. And I don't think that we need to be in the moment, in the know of every single thing, because I kind of don't think that's healthy, especially with the war. But that is one that's weighing heavy on my heart, and it's taken a lot of the news cycle because of the things that are actually going on. We're just trying to decide like how many planes have been shot down because there was a report earlier today that one was shot down and two people were on it. They've rescued one and they're looking for the other. Now, interestingly enough, one of the articles that I read about that one is that at the same time they are searching, the Iranians are putting out announcements, making sure that folks help them look and find this second person, and they're issuing a reward for a captured American pilot. Okay.
Like, how is this real? Like, I sometimes I can't even. I'm like, this cannot even really be on Easter weekend. This is what we're having to deal with the fact that a fighter jet was brought down by the Iranians, who are supposed to be disabled. They're not supposed to have anything, according to Trump. We wiped them out, right? I mean, they
Yeah, that's what he said.
now. They're not capable of doing anything. And here we go with this happening today. Then we get the notification about the Black Hawks down. And then we hear, and I just got this news right before I saw from Washington Post that said that another fighter jet was brought down. Like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? What is Pete Hegseth even doing with this war? Not to mention, Trump is bragging last night about bombing a bridge that supposedly was carrying, a means for them to get to a certain place. When it comes to fruition about all the things that have happened, the person who's like in charge over there said the bridge wasn't even functional. So you and the people that were on the bridge, they were going, it was apparently a holiday yesterday in Iran, and they were having a picnic, and he killed innocent people. They killed innocent people on this bridge. And then when the rescue people came to help them, they bombed those people. So I mean, yeah, they're gonna take down our fighter jets because you're killing innocent people over there. You're not targeting nuclear plants or whatever the things that they keep on saying they're trying to target. That doesn't seem like what they're actually doing. And I do fear, and there's many reports out there that while they're saying 13 Americans have been killed, soldiers, people that work in that arena, there is hundreds. That's what the reporting is saying, that there are hundreds of people who have been killed. There are hundreds of people who are injured, and we are not getting proper reporting coming out of the war because apparently I'm assuming there's not enough journalists on the ground. I mean, it is Iran, so we don't really know what's happening. And I feel like we're being blindsided, and we're going to start getting really bad news. And I'm fearful of that.
Very much so, Tiff. And of course, I'm a veteran, and I know like just the way that they are going about this, and constantly purging like experienced military people um, because of their DEI hangups. But these are people who have the experience and the knowledge to actually fight a war. And they are creating more and more wars. Like, he still hasn't given up on talking about going into Cuba. So we could expect that any day. That wouldn't be a surprise. And while we do have the largest military in the world, there is a finite number of troops, and there is a finite number of weaponry that we have, and they are burning through it. And you will burn through it faster, and it will be less effective if you have all of these conflicts that you are starting in different parts of the world. It just won't work. We are not going to win in that kind of setup. And I think that he is trying to prepare us, like his speech Wednesday to the nation basically was a bunch of braggadocious lies.
Right.
And I feel like he was, in his way, trying to prime Americans, not getting their support so much as prepping them to let them know, like, we're going to be here a while, because he listed all of these wars that we have been in and how long they were. And I think that was, and this one's only been going on 6 weeks, was to say, hey, calm down. It's only been 6 weeks, but we were in Vietnam for 19 years. We were here in Iraq for this long, but nowhere in there was he feeling or conveying his concern for the military men and women. And what is so ironic and also disgusting, a lot of people I know probably don't realize this, but April is Military Child Appreciation Month. Okay. And again, like I said, being a veteran, and I've also been the spouse of an active duty military. So I've been on both sides, active duty and, family member. And I have a lot of family that has served. And when military members go to war, their families are serving in some capacity too, because they are missing that family member. And of course, this is Easter weekend, and all of this is being generated from his ego and greed and power, and Benjamin Netanyahu's as well. And Hegseth's trying to get in on the game, because I'm sure you heard about the report of his private broker trying to secure some stock deals before we actually went to war. And people are going off about APEC. I'm like, do you guys realize they are a drop in the bucket? Like, there are defense contractors, fossil fuel companies, and people within this cabinet who are making money and applauding and cheering on this war.
Yeah, the market manipulation is very, very telling, right? I mean, we see what they're trying to do. One day, the thing is, Trump is like so bipolar. It seems to me like one day he's like, one day we're like, we're gonna leave in like 2 weeks. One day we're not gonna do anything. We're gonna withdraw, and we won the war. It's like, I can't keep up with his craziness. It's too much to handle. But the way that it seems, and I've never been in the military, but it just seems to me that the fact that they fired so many generals, like within the day of yesterday, like there was like, I don't know, 13, I think.
Secretary of the Army. Hello.
That's the person who's leading the charge here. And it seems to me that they're saying things to Hegseth that he doesn't, despite the DEI foolishness. It seems to me that what these generals are saying, because generals, they have to look out for their people, right? They're just
leaders of other human beings.
Exactly. So they're not gonna agree to do something, a strategy that is going to harm and put their soldiers at risk. And it seems to me that they are trying to give warnings to say, no, this is not a good idea. Don't do this. This will cause more conflict. This will cause more issues. I honestly, as I think about it, and maybe I'm just like I'm just clueless, but I don't remember hearing about F-15s falling out of the sky during Afghanistan or even in Iraq, because they didn't have those kinds of capabilities as far as I remember. But, and of course, we've had Black Hawks Down. We had a whole movie about that. But I've seen more F-15s fall out of the sky than even in Kuwait. Remember like a couple of weeks ago when the war first started, that they, I don't know exactly what happened, but the person was able to,
The refueling planes, they
yeah,
targeted them, and so they're hitting not only active, fighter jets, but also the planes and the equipment that is set up to refuel, to assist them in what they're doing, and refueling in midair and those kinds of things. Oh, and how could I forget? Also, most of the major countries in Europe have said you can't fly in our airspace. You
right.
know.
Or they don't want anything to do with this war, and I don't blame
Mhm.
them. I mean, they're being impacted by the gas situation as we are. But I think even to a bigger degree, it seems like they have, and maybe not so much them, but like the the East, like the Asian countries are being impacted by this because they need to get their gas through the Strait of Hormuz. Like, it's just so much that I honestly cannot keep up, and I try my best not to watch MSNBC or CNN.
You'd be
Because
good, wise
I
not
mean,
to.
I never ever watch CNN. I will put that out there. I never watch it because, but usually CNN is pretty good on international issues more so than domestic issues. And
Right.
I haven't even had the time to even look at it because I don't want to get frustrated. I'm already mad about everything that is happening. This man is asking for, they put out their budget today and they want to cut a bunch of programs. They want to cut the program that helps with people with their energy bills. Like, what? We are paying way more for energy from data centers, from war, like, and this is what you want to do. Like, you want people to have to pay more for their utility bills. Like, this is assistance. Like, I don't understand. There was so many things on this list of things that they want to cut that was just so problematic, but yeah, you want to put more money for war.
Exactly. I mean, and then on Wednesday, he actually said he's not interested in supporting people providing daycare and Medicare and Medicaid or any of those things. Like,
Crazy, which is so crazy because I mean, you want people. I thought about this day. I was sitting in the line for like Starbucks to get my Starbucks this morning, and you're literally saying you want to cut. We don't have money for daycare, but yet you are forcing women to have babies in certain states now. So where are these people supposed to get the assistance to be able to support their children? You don't want Medicaid, you don't want Medicaid, you don't want any of this stuff, and you don't want daycare. How are parents supposed to go to work if they don't have the ability? We're losing jobs. I don't even that jobs report that came out this morning was so suspect. Okay.
mm. Anything coming from this government at this point, I mean, I feel like we are a third world country because we can't believe anything that is coming from this government. I don't trust them, depending on some of the sources in there, some of it may be reliable, but they're lying. And I feel like what is happening, the reason that we're exhausted by all of this is because he's a narcissist, and we are all experiencing this narcissistic abuse, and he is just flat out lying on about what we have done, what we plan to do, what Iran is, doing, like negotiating. He keeps talking about negotiating, and Iran's like, nah, we're not talking. No talks going
Right.
on here. And why should they? In fact, because both times that they have tried, they have been attacked in the middle of negotiations.
Right.
So
And then we get to today, and I'm just like, what is even happening? Like, where, what we are, it to me, like I said, I'm not an expert at this, but just from the outside, well, inside looking looking out and in, however you want to look at it feels like we're losing this war. Like slowly but surely, we're losing. We're at least losing the narrative around the war. We may not physically be losing the war where we don't. I mean, we're not losing people. That's so we think. I think enough have been lost already, but it just feels like we are being outsmarted by a country who is now run by somebody who is not 80 something years old. That Ayatollah is dead. His son, who is now, I think he's like in his 40s or 50s,
50s, I think, yeah.
and he is now running this country along with, what are they called? The IGRC, I think that's their name,
Mhm.
something like that. They're running this
IRG.
IRG, and they're running this country, and they are, to me, seems like we're being outsmarted because we have a stupid idiot that is running our defense department who doesn't know his ass from his hand. He doesn't know what he's doing, and
And they don't care because, I mean, Pete Heck said that the selection of him was in keeping with Project 2025, which we talked a lot about, and him purging the flag officers and that sort of thing. These things were all in Project 2025. And again, the Heritage Foundation, the author, many of the people who belong and who authored these are connected to fossil fuel industries, defense contract industries. And they talked a lot about, building these new ships and doing all of these things and purging the military in the same way that they purged the civilian force. I mean, of course, that had devastating effect, and it's still having it. And the military will be even more catastrophic because at the same time that they're purging experienced people, they are trying to propagandize and nationalize the military with Christian nationalist bullshit. I mean, he is having meetings in the Pentagon with his minister and telling these troops things like, this is a religious war, and you need to do this for God, and and you're talking about a country that is a theocracy and all the things that they do in the name of religion, and how is what we're doing any different? It is not. They're screaming to Americans and, trying to get them all afraid of Muslims being here. Of course, Andy Ogle's my representative, talking about kicking them all out, and the rest are beating the drums about Sharia law. Well, as you talked about abortion, I mean, they got their own GOP Sharia law. I mean, why do we have to worry about Muslim Sharia law? I mean, because they are the ones here who are trying to dictate religion to us and also control women's bodies and control the ability of a large number of women to vote.
right.
What is that if not Sharia law? It's one of those things where every accusation is
Mhm.
basically a confession, and I don't get that. People don't understand that. But one thing for sure is they can speak all of these things. They can yell and scream and try to change the narrative or recreate a narrative. But when the body bags start showing up, they can't whitewash that. And families are not going to accept their lies. And military families will start to speak out. It won't be sustainable what they're doing, and it is a damn disaster. It is really a gift to Putin. It really is.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
we ended up lifting sanctions from him, didn't we? Didn't we lift sanctions from Russia?
for him and for Iran.
Which makes
Okay,
no sense. Which makes no
it's
sense. Like, what are we even doing? Like, this doesn't. None of it makes
facing
any.
ourselves.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I am so frustrated with this whole situation. Not to mention, when we're talking about the fact that I don't know if people even realize what happened yesterday with the budget, like with like not the budget, but the DHS stuff that
Mhm.
Wednesday they came back. The Republicans said they have a deal. They had a deal between Thune and Johnson, right? And then yesterday the House had a meeting and they said, no, we're not going to pass. We're not going to do what they want us to do. We're not going to pass it. So it's going to be pushed off again. So now we still haven't had that piece of the government funded minus ICE, which already has money. CBP already has money. But the rest of the people are still not getting paid because they are paying TSA now because of all the things that happened at the airport over the last 2 weeks. But the other people are not getting paid, and so you have like a domestic nightmare happening at our airports, which is also a risk to me. When you have like a security risk, when you have so many people in one space, or I've even read something where people, they weren't even checking people properly at, because it was so busy, they didn't have the time or the capacity to do it. So of course ICE came, and and then you see ICE is doing work there too. So it's like, what are we even doing here? Like on so many fronts, it feels like we are at risk of any and everything possibly happening in this country, because it doesn't feel like the adults are in the room. It feels like a demented man is in the room and his sycophants are in the room, and no one is being honest with him. And I've even read the reports where they said that they're giving Trump rose colored glasses
Glasses, yeah, yeah,
about what is happening
the
with
reports.
he doesn't even know what is really going wrong with this war. And it makes me think of kind of how people, we went through this whole thing with Biden, and he was old, and there was reporting about his own staff that was doing the same thing. But I feel like with Trump, I mean, Biden at least had good sense to understand, kind of understand what's going on. Maybe he was naive, and so was Obama in many ways, about how they look, about the world, and how people like viewed them and what they were doing. I think Biden definitely had some blinders on when it came to the Israel Gaza war, like, in retrospect, as you kind of walk through it. But I feel like people are not being honest with Trump, and he believes that he's winning this war. And I just don't see it. I just don't see where we're winning in any way, shape, or form. When I see today gas is $4.29. I see, thankfully, by my house, it's still $3.99. But I'm sure tomorrow when I get up and I go out, it's going to be $4.09. It might even be $4.29, because the 30 cents is not a long shot in how quickly gas prices can be raised at this point. I've seen it happen overnight where
Mhm.
it shoots up. But we're talking the difference of filling my car up for like $55, my truck, versus $90. Thankfully, I have the money to be able to do it, but the struggling family doesn't have that. And yet you're telling them, we don't care about your benefits. We don't care about if you have to pay more for all these things. We care about our military. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, you care about your military, and that's great and all right, cool. But what about the people? Because I think I said this on Wednesday when we were talking. He is driving many of us to actually become America first, but not in the way that he wants us to be America first, like a whole different way. And that's scary.
It really is, because he really doesn't care about the military either, because he is, putting those servicemen and men and women in harm's way, putting them in not well thought out situations, taking away good leadership from them, which is a disservice to them. And he doesn't care about them. And he showed that he didn't care about the military in his first season, when he ragged on John McCain, and then, his chief of staff asking it, I don't get it. What's in it for them? So he sees the military as one of his dispensable tools, expendable tools, and, like toy soldiers in a box, or whatever. Just shake them out and just move them around, play with them, and then, you know, throw them back, whatever is left or remaining. And that is the sad part, because most presidents really don't enjoy sending their military and men and women into war. And they really do seem to, even Bush W., whom I didn't like, he seemed to have an idea of what he was doing. And he was able to convey and talk to Americans and let them know that he cared and tried to bring them on board, even if it was to under false pretenses. This guy doesn't pretend at all. He acts like this literally really is his country. Like, and the military, everything belongs to him, and he can just do what he want. The White House. I was glad, speaking of which, going shift here a little bit, but I was glad that he got stopped on that building of the ballroom, because in the middle of one of his national addresses or whatever, or some kind of White House event or whatever, they were asking him, I think, about the war, and he pivoted, didn't really answer that, and brought out all of these sketches of his ballroom and talking about this. It's like, are you there? Are you there?
Not in the same world as us. He's not in this. He's not. We're in totally different. Like I said, it feels like Twilight Zone, because you have him talking about things that we're like scratching our head. Like, what are you even saying? Like, you're not making any sense. But I do agree that he thinks that the military is like his toy. He thinks that I think the report that I read yesterday said that in the morning they're giving him videos of like us blowing stuff up. So
Yeah, that's how
thinks.
he's getting his briefing, military briefing.
Yeah, we're winning, but in reality, we're not winning as much as he thinks that we're winning. And I feel like this is all like the fact that they were able to take down our fighter jets is very concerning to me. That's not normal. There's not some kind of safety protocols are not being followed. If that can happen, there's supposed to be things that prevent these kinds of things from happening, that they're not allowed to just do this. This is crazy to me. And like, I don't understand what's happening. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna. And I saw where the European countries and a lot of other countries were like, listen, we're gonna find a way to open this thing. We don't care what these people think anymore, these Americans, because these people they have to start thinking about their own countries first, right? I mean, we can't claim to be America first, and then expect that the Europeans and the Asians are not gonna bond together and figure out a way to get around this, because you decided to jump into this war to help your friend, Bibi Netanyahu. And now everybody else in the region, everyone else around has been impacted by this. And what are they supposed to do? Just sit around and wait for you to finish the war when you decide just one day, like today's going to be the last day we're going to be fighting. We're going to send the 15,000 troops that we sent out there. They're going to come back home. I mean, it costs money to send these people overseas.
And it costs even more because they can't launch initiatives or attacks from the typical places, because we really have bases all around the world. But if we can't utilize half of them, it really doesn't do us any good to have them. So we have to rethink our strategy. And these people, they're not smart. And so I don't look at them as being, good strategists. They're just, it's like throwing darts at the board, but it is, American lives that are at stake, our economy that's at stake. Like, he is literally destroying the economy, and it seems very intentional, the things that he's doing, and he's making sure the destruction for everyone else, whether that's health issues and real economic issues like gas and the cost of food, but infrastructure and those things too, because he's also paying millions to companies, energy companies, not to develop green energy, these wind farms and things like this that were part of the infrastructure bill. The infrastructure projects that they are keeping, that President Biden was able to get passed, they're putting their names on it, and then they're destroying others, so
Well, we're gonna get Trump's name on our money soon, so that's another stupid thing.
yeah. And I mean, the bottom line is we are in fascism. We are in an autocratic state. How deep we go
Right.
depends on how much Americans start paying attention, because I still feel like some people don't recognize the danger that we're in. Like we're not getting there. We're there. We're in the depths of of fascism right now, and you know we can still go deeper, and it can still get worse. And he is trying to build alliances with other autocrats. Case in point, I just read before we got on that Vance is going to be going to Hungary next week, and they are about to have their elections. And so you know that Viktor Orban is a big fan of the GOP. He has been their keynote speaker at CPAC. He's invited to the Heritage Foundation and several other things. So they are going over that. He's sending Vance over to try to help Orban, because the people, he's been in power there since 2010, since he took power, and people are now starting to raise up, and he is actually not polling well, and it doesn't look like he's going to win. In fact, it is said, I read a report that some Russian agencies had considered trying to help him by staging an assassination.
I saw that report. Like I said, everything's. But this thing about this, and I wrote this last night when I saw that about Vance going. If Kamala Harris went to go help an autocrat in another country to try to win an election, these folks on the right would have lost their goddamn mind. We had to deal with stupidity with Kamala. She bought pots. It was a problem. She wore headphones with the actual like strings. It was a problem.
Because she was taking security measures seriously. There's a reason.
She paid for the pots out of her own money. But yet, he can do whatever. Oh, and by the way, he's now the fraud czar. Did you see?
Oh, yes, I did. I was going to get to that and he named all the states, which none of them are surprising to us, because
I was surprised Maryland wasn't on there, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he said, and more. So it might be.
Why are we being announced this stuff via Truth Social? Why are we being told stuff in this capacity? I don't understand what is happening. This is madness. I said he is the Mad King. He is truly the Mad King. And unfortunately, he has a military that he can use, a highly equipped one that we pay a lot of money to equip and arm.
Access to nukes.
Access to nuclear codes. He also has like this sensation with just saying the most absurd things. And I still don't understand why the media is not calling it out, because we had all this time where they're like, Biden is not doing good. Biden can't walk. Biden can't. I'm sorry, but I miss Biden, okay? Because at least he had a cabinet full of people who were smart, who understood politics, who understood the geopolitical landscape, who were not going to just go agree to do whatever the hell he wanted to do to butter him up, to make him feel better, to deal with his narcissism. And we now are stuck in this situation. And then we also have midterm elections coming up and primaries that are happening. And we also have to deal with the left nonsense. Like, it's too much. Like, no one person can deal with this. Even the people like us who are politicals, who watch the news, who understand what's happening, I understand why people have checked out and are like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this because this is too much, even from the standard of people like us that have time and go and try to find news. It is still too much. So I
Mhm.
don't blame people, but I have seen more people expressing their frustration with what is happening in this country. And yes, I always will say, I told you so, because we knew this was going to happen. But I think the majority of people who knew this was going to happen are also at a point where they're like, this is even too much for me, a person who knew how bad things could get.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had no failure of imagination once I read Project 2025. And like I said, I live in fascist Tennessee. I've already seen what they do when they have total control because we have had a trifecta here for quite some time, for over 15 years. And yes, they pass all kinds of, autocratic bills and laws and all sorts of things. So I knew that they would. Be doing the same thing at the federal level when they got control. And yes, a lot of these people, I talked to a friend of mine's yesterday, a childhood friend, one of my oldest. We hadn't talked in a few years. And that's what, and she's, not someone, she kind of watches the news in general, but she's not politically inclined or whatever. I mean, she votes or whatever, but um she was expressing what you were describing, just sometimes just being exhausted and overwhelmed, like turning on the news and, oh no, I can't do it today. I can't. And I get it. And it is important for us to maintain our peace of mind, but it is also important that we be informed so that we don't just totally check out. And with these folks, they can do a lot in a very small amount of time. And some things we can make some noise about and do some things. So we have to stay engaged to a degree, but we don't have to be consumed and overwhelmed by it. And um, I'm constantly kind of rethinking and recalibrating, because we've been at this for a while, like having serious conversations, trying to inform people. And um, I constantly rethinking my approach to it because sometimes I just feel like, you know, we told you,
Right.
we've been telling you, we've been talking about this. What else can we do? And I'm still looking for answers. I try different things, but I also, of course, long time ago gave up trying to waste time on um, the MAGA cult members. Like that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I've given up. I've given up on MAGA. They are so far gone. They are not coming back. There are people who are like starting to see the light because you know what? Because it's impacting their pocket. And because this country is all about money, when it always comes down to the bottom line of what people are feeling in their pockets. And unfortunately, when gas rises, I think about 2021, 22, when we started having like major inflation issues. what
Hmm.
what was the thing that really drove people to be upset with Biden? It was mostly gas. It was mostly gas that drove people crazy, because yes, they were paying more for food, but you can adjust what you buy at the store, right? If you are a person that likes beef, which beef is at an all-time high, I think, at this point. If you are like, okay, I like beef, but I'm not going to be able to afford that. So let me just buy more chicken. I'll eat more vegetarian meals. Like, you can adjust around food, but you cannot adjust around gas if you have to get to work. The price is the price, and you have to pay it no matter what. And especially if you live in a place where there's no transportation, you have to drive. So you're gonna have to spend this money, even if you have to.
Yeah, because if you live in places like Tennessee, I mean, we don't have a strong mass transit system. So you're gonna drive to get to work. I mean, some people that live in maybe in Nashville in the city can ride the bus, the city bus, but they're not even that reliable or that frequent. So it is difficult. And as you said, those kinds of things touch everyone. The problem is, I think people are feeling it, but some of them are still failing to attribute the blame to the right people and things. They still somehow or another still try to figure out a way to blame Dems, and Democrats. And some of these, when we talk about the media, we know that the way that people, especially young people, consume media has changed. And they're getting more of it from social media and those types of things. People in my age group and older, are still mostly tuning into your traditional mainstream media sources. That's problematic too. So I'm trying to talk more to people because I don't think, like you and I, that they recognize that the ownership and the behavior of these mainstream media channels have changed. And so people are getting propagandized. They're getting propaganda, left, right, everywhere. It's so hard. And that basically syncs up with the purpose of, the Russian propaganda, that started here, this information war, because that's what they want people to get to a place where they're like, what
And
is truth? Like alternative facts. Yeah.
yeah,
Who can know?
which unfortunately many people believe, which is insanity to me. But also, I do think that we are living in a grievance culture, like the culture that has been kind of cultivated over the last couple of years is when it comes to social media, is that people want to hear other people express their anger, their frustration, and it just kind of feeds them because there's somebody that's raging as much as they feel, but half the stuff that they're raging over is not even the fault of the people that they're blaming. In some cases, listen, Democrats are not perfect. You and I have had this conversation many times. I have my criticisms of Democrats and the things that they do, but
But they're not fascist.
they're not fascist, and they also are trying to do good. Sometimes they're met with limitations in the fact of vote. Like we obviously talk a lot about civics on here and in what we do, but people don't understand how things get done in this country, right? Sometimes I listen to the craziness on that side. So
You
sometimes
have to so you can know what's going on. Keep a finger on
randomly
the pulse.
randomly at night I will end up going through like my timeline, and for some odd reason Nick Fuentes somehow always ends up on my page, and I don't understand why. It's not even him, it's like this, like an account that like,
Somebody brings that into your timeline.
but unfortunately and fortunately I listen because I want to hear what, like sometimes it'll like I'll be like, what is he talking about? Like last night I saw two videos. One was extremely outrageous about black people that was like so out freaking like I want to punch him in his face. The other one was he was actually explaining what an executive order is to his audience and how it's literally just a memorandum, and Trump is just signing these memorandums and he doesn't even know what he's talking about. And he was talking specifically about the one for birthright citizenship.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God. First of all, I definitely was a little high, but I'll admit that because I wouldn't probably listen to it otherwise. But
I got time.
I was in the bed, like that's my sleep regimen. I was like getting ready to go to sleep. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, he actually understands civics. And that is also a big problem that we have on the left because people don't understand civics. This guy is a maniac. He's a freaking bigot like no other, but he actually understands how the government works. And I was shocked by how much he understood about the process. And he was trying to explain to his audience that Trump really sunk himself in a hole because he tried to do this birthright citizenship via this memorandum, aka executive order. And whoever told him this was so full of shit because they don't even know what they're talking about. And of course, it went to the Supreme Court this week, and they were talking. They had a hearing over it, and he's like, he's gonna lose. He's gonna lose, and the whole point was that Trump, he kind of was like, we're going to do immigration. And then once you start talking about immigration, people fell for that. That was the moral of the story, that people fell for what Trump was selling them about America first, because the focus was supposed to be on immigration. But now that he's in office, it's not even about immigration anymore. It's about war. And it's about other issues that money, exactly, and helping Israel and all. He had valid points in what he was saying. He's a maniac, but he had valid points in what he was saying. And I'm just sitting there like, why do people like get drawn to some of these folks who are talking heads to me? They're just talking heads.
Yeah.
He's not anybody but a talking head. I could do the same thing, and I could do it with grievance, right? I could be on social media all day long as my job and bitch about the Democrats all day long, and I would probably get a whole lot of likes.
Yeah, because that you touched on something. It's like grievance politics, and they're using it to increase their algorithm to gain more followers or whatever. And it's good that he does understand civics. It's sad that he understands that, but interprets and has these political takes.
Way he like, if he was like, you could always tell from people who actually understand civics who don't understand civics, right? The fact that he understands civics and is also extremely bigoted is, to me, a scary thing. When in comparison to somebody like the Piker dude who does not understand civics and is just angry at Democrats all the time. So you have one segment of people who are listening to that person on the right who actually understands politics and actually is attacking Trump, which is crazy, right? It's kind of the same thing. You're attacking the party that you belong to. Then you have Hassan Piker, who is also attacking Democrats, but not in a way that makes like any kind of sense. It's like a roundabout way. So I'm like on like two different ends of the spectrum here, and I'm just like, I see how people are attracted to these podcasters and these streamers because they're telling them something that they want to hear, which is white male grievance. Mm-hmm. And it's attractive because they need somebody to be mad at. They need somebody to be upset with. But I get the right side. I get why they're mad at Trump, because he basically lied to them and said he was going to focus on one thing and the other. I don't really understand what the other person is mad about. And how is that going to help get rid of the person who is in office now? Because that is supposed to be our goal, right? As we talk about midterms, the goal is to get rid of the people who are the fascists. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing is in Florida, we won 2 elections there.
I love it.
Saw it coming. Well, at least even the woman who won, she was like, listen, I did all I could. And we got to the day and I won. And she was proud of herself, which she should have been. But who would have thought? Right?
Exactly. I'm sure he's probably pretty upset about that being represented by a Democrat now. But I love it, but you're right. And I too kind of listen to some of these far out, right wingers or extreme, talking heads or whatever, trying to, find some understanding of their behavior. And mostly what I get from it is this grievance, mostly from young white men. And it is like moving goalposts. It's, the grievance is the grift, kind of, for the attention grift, whether they, actually profit financially or not is, another thing. Some of them do, some of them don't. But they have huge followings who end up kind of falling into that because, who doesn't love a good pity party? I mean, I don't. I've never liked that, but that's exactly what it's like. They create all these pity parties and yeah, just come in, let's bitch. Like
It's a
there was a time when, like we used to have in the 70s, I can't think of like rap sessions, like bitch sessions, basically, where we just talk. And I feel like that's what they're having, and people feel that they can relate to these people. And while some of the points they're making may make sense, they may be tapping into some of their grievance, but the conclusions that they're making and the political takeaways that they offer are shit. They are not good political strategies. Like I tell you, I was listening to an influencer on Substack. He had a guest on yesterday. And it's one that I listen to a lot because I know he has a big following, and I don't like the way that they kind of bash the Dems. And so I try to get it in there and give a little pushback, not stir stuff up too much, but like, here's something else to think about, or why are you saying this? Or why aren't you saying that? And they're the ones who were big on, like wanting these kind of litmus tests, purity tests around Israel and APAC and certain other things. And so he had a historian. I won't say she wrote a book on the history of Zionism on Jew. And I thought, wow, that's good. That's interesting. And she was talking about the history, going back to the 1800s, which, I'm a history nerd. And she also touched on how similar, their efforts in Europe were to things that were going on here in the United States, and the coalition and collaboration between Jews and Blacks, in regards to civil rights. And I was like, this is good, and I thought, like, wow, maybe he's providing some, some context and historical depth to some of these takes. So maybe, they won't be on that, APEC hate shit, as if that's, the only issue that they care about. And then at the end, and I actually typed in the chat, that's where you lost me, sister. They started talking about Hassan Piker. Is that his name?
Yes.
Oh, and she just thought he was wonderful and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm sorry. But I don't watch him, but someone has sent me some of his material so I could get a concept. But I cannot even get through. It's like an hour rant, and I can't get through I can't get through past 20 minutes of it, because he kind of lost me when he started bitching and griping about harm reduction. That's bullshit, basically, is what he's saying. I'm like, spoken like someone who has privilege and has never been placed in systemic harmful situations.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I listen, I am so sick of hearing about this dude. I have never I've never been on Twitch. I mean, I know he's on YouTube. I've seen
Mhm.
many of his clips. I've seen him go off on my friend Jose. I've seen him like be so insecure about things. But I think this week was really kind of a thing where, third way, which I don't like either, which
Right.
they get on my nerves with their stupidity too. They were like saying, people shouldn't go on his shows. And I'm like, yeah, but the easiest thing for, like, in one way, you could ignore him because no one even knew who this dude was. I mean, he has a following, he's a niche following of people who like to hear that kind of talk of him bitching and complaining and just kind of going off and saying things. And I'm just like, you know what? That's not for me. That's like the majority of people don't want to hear that, right? It's a younger audience. And yes, he can persuade people. There's things that you can persuade, but I don't know this dude. And everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard about his commentary about Black people, and I just don't, it's not a thing that I would ever care about, right? And the fact that Democrats and the media are paying this dude so much attention, he is not going to influence an election. Let's be clear about this. He will have a select, the people that are listening to him are likely never going to vote
I
anyway.
was gonna say they're probably not even voters anyway, and so to give all you're doing is helping him to really increase his
Right.
visibility, and again, giving him really more attention and influence than I think he deserves, you know?
But that's what this is. It's an influence. It's a culture of grievance. It's a culture of attention. Because I've seen him. He says the one that threw me off. But he was like, "I love Mao." I'm like, "You love Mao? Like what are you even talking about? Like this got to be crazy, right? Like you this
You
cannot
mean like Mao, like
like Mao Mao. Yes, yes, Mao. He seems to be a communist. But I'm also laughing because I'm like, you're also on Twitch, which is a company that is owned by Amazon, and he literally gives like 20, like all the subscriptions he has, like 25% of that goes back to the corporations. You hate billionaires, you hate corporations, but yet you are actually feeding them. So people are arguing with me on Twitter, like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do we, I stutter? Like I literally said what I said. You can't claim to be a communist and also hate capitalism,
and feed the
also
capitalists.
feeding the capitalists with your show that is now bringing in them revenue, and none of this makes any kind of sense. Like I'm a realist. Like I am a real person who thinks logically.
Yeah, and Black women, we're pragmatic. You know, like it said, we can hear some of this stuff and we cannot agree with we don't have to agree with everything, but like we get, like, it's not a hard concept. I don't know how you can make that more sense. Like harm reduction is harm reduction for everyone. Like, I don't get that you can be against something that helps bring less harm to everyone. What it tells me is you don't give a damn about anyone except yourself.
But the thing is, the people that were commenting back to me just tells me that they don't know anything, because they're like, well, what about keep the same energy for MSNBC and CNN? Sweetie, you think that we don't know that that's corporate media? And the people on those shows are not like, hey, we hate capitalism. Guess what? They like getting their paycheck every couple of weeks, and they will do what their corporate overlords tell them to do, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
this is how things work. The only person there are independent media people like a Don Lemon who has cultivated his own, even though he does use all the platforms, right? But
Mhm.
I think about a Roland Martin, right, who had been in corporate media, who decided to do his own thing, and he has his own show and own production and all this other stuff, which Hassan Piker has too. But I don't hear Roland Martin saying F the capitalists, F the billionaires, F. Mind you, the people that are subscribing to your show, those are working people, and you're taking their money, so you are just as bad as the rest. Like the whole thing is just so stupid to me, and I just sit there and I'm just like, okay, listen, if at the end of the day I really wanted to be like a full-time content creator, yeah, I would have to sell grievance. I'm not selling my ass and my dignity and my integrity just so I could have followers, like, and make some
Exactly.
money. That's not worth it to me. And there are many influencers who do a great job of talking about politics that have never had to sell their soul to be able to have a following. It's Kenny is one of them, very organic. Zach, I think of
And
Elizabeth.
very funny.
Yeah, I mean they use their wit, they use their skills, their knowledge to be able to get. They're not yelling and screaming for likes. And I think that is absurd to me, because if you're going to be able to be an influencer, you should be an influencer for good, not for bad. You should want people to listen to you because you're informing them of what they should do or shouldn't do, and use research and all that stuff, not just sitting in front of your computer for 8 hours a day. I was shocked when somebody said that the Piker dude had an 8 hour show and all he does is just go through a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, who the hell has time for this? I guess when you're rich, because apparently it comes from money. He's Chank's nephew. He have money.
Well, I mean, that sounds like so many of them, the ones who are influencing these people who don't have much of anything and ragging on the capitalists and all of these things tend to be like, born with silver spoons in their mouths, or wealth, and have had a lot of things handed to them. And that's why I just like, I get that, young white men are disaffected. I think that's the term they're using for them or whatever. But I don't want them to infect the
That's
society
it.
with
Yeah, infect them with even more grievance than they already have, right?
exactly.
These people are against us. Like it's a whole like conspiracy of Democrats they're just as evil. I was literally watching a clip somebody had posted where the Piker dude was like that Kamala is just as bad as the Republicans. And eh, how you fix your mouth to say something like that. Just listen, Kamala's not perfect. I would never say that she's a perfect person or perfect politician. None of us are. There are people who want to do good and there are people who want to do bad. If you can't see the difference between good and bad, or and you the lesser of two evils type of bullshit that you guys want to spew, makes no sense to me, because I saw what Kamala and Joe Biden got accomplished. I know the record. And when you compare records to records, there is a stark difference in what they were trying to do and what Trump is trying to do. There is hands down no comparison to what they're trying to do. One gave people more access to healthcare, the other is taking away healthcare. One wants to fight in wars, the other one is trying to be diplomatic. Like these are not the same thing. And every day when I get on Twitter, I'm just like, oh my God, let me go look at my monkey, because I hate these people. I really can't stand them. They're dumb.
Yes, I know. Well, what I do is I just unplug totally, and I am, got my little balcony nursery going out here and getting into my gardening, and that is really bringing me a lot of joy. But yeah, I continue to think about the influence that they have and the danger that they pose, because we are in an information war. We have an election coming up, and the way that the places that people are getting their information um, is kind of disturbing to me, because we know that, like I said, a lot of older people, they probably aren't aware of the changes in ownership of some of these larger media stations. And so I think sometimes the subtlety of it's not necessarily what is said, but oftentimes what the information that is not said, or the emphasis that is the emphasis they take on certain things. And it just again goes back to my passion of trying to help people to and encourage people to use their own minds, and to become civically engaged. Like, you don't have to know everything, but as you said, like, they're running platforms, and Carrie said over here, because he's collecting from all these streams and things. You can get your information from a lot of different sources, but I think people need to start using their own critical thinking skills, and following all these influencers and these people, like, kind of just parroting what they say, just because you like them and you agree with them or whatever. But when it comes to politics, what is bothering you in your own community, the things that are affecting you for good and for bad. And you need to try to focus, we, the collective, we need to lean more into our local politics, and know what's happening, who's serving in certain positions, running for certain things, because a lot of the things that these guys are talking about, a lot of those things are out of our control, but the things that are in our control in the local areas, our votes and stuff, can have a big impact on us. But I don't think, because the schools are not helping with, civic lessons and education and involvement, I just continue to, like I said, to look for ways to continue to get people to be um, informed and civically engaged. Try to point out good places and sources for them to go. And I'm glad that you highlighted Dawn and Lemon and Roland Martin, because I love what they're building. There are other people who are building some good
I mean,
independent. Um,
even Midas Touch, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's not a platform for me because I don't see any black people on there at all. I don't see no brown people,
right,
no white people. Let's keep it real. But I do appreciate that they do have a platform to be able to give people. Thing is, it's so funny because when I think about it, where do I get my news from? I don't watch any of these shows. Like I'm not a podcast kind of girl. Like we do our shows. I have my show with you, I have my show with Kenny, and we have a following and people that watch us, and I appreciate that.
absolutely,
I'm not a person that watches other people's stuff, and I watch like maybe one show per evening, which is usually on 7 p.m. I like Simone, so I'll watch her show with Michael Steele, and I always just kind of see what they're talking about, and just like
right.
my
Because it's like I love the three different
dynamic.
perspectives
I
that
feel
they
like
come. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they have a conservative, which is Michael, he's not really conservative anymore. He's a pretend conservative. But I like the dynamic of the show. And that's basically all I watch in terms of news. But I get news like fed to me, like from, obviously written news, like Washington Post, New York Times. I get constantly getting updates on what is happening, but I don't allow people to influence the way that I feel about certain things. And I feel like people shouldn't allow that either. Listen, if you don't think the Democrats are doing a good job, there is nothing I can do to get you off of that point. But if you want to understand why they're not doing the things that you want them to do, then that's a different story, right? Because if you've already made up your mind that the Democrats suck and there's nothing they could do, ain't nothing I could do to fix that. But if
Exactly.
to learn about why and how and what is happening,
And what maybe you can do, how
yeah,
you
and so that's kind of my approach to it. It's like, do I want to make videos? No. But when I see things and I want to talk about it, then I will get on TikTok and go and make a video and kind of talk through whatever the issue is, because I do understand that a lot of people don't understand the dynamics and the ins and outs of what is happening within the Senate, or what's happening in the House, or what's happening, even with the presidency. Like, they just don't understand how any of that works. And if they do, maybe they do understand conceptually how it works, but the inner workings of it is really complicated, especially in the Senate. So that's why I feel like, okay, let me go and talk about this. Yeah, am I gonna laugh about Pam Bondi getting fired? Absolutely. It's the goddamn Game of Thrones over there right now. Everybody's on the goddamn topic.
winter is coming.
Yeah, winter is definitely, well, but maybe it ain't coming. Maybe we'll flip it around and say summer is coming, right? The heat is
Yeah.
something, because the man is getting more and more antsy as the day goes on, and so you start to see like the inner, like that, all of this, like, what does this even mean, right? Pam Bondi is gone, but that doesn't mean things are going to get better, because the corruption is only going to get worse, because corruption begets corruption. And this man is now the person that took over for her is like, oh yeah, we don't even care about those Epstein files. You're not going to get anything else from us. So you start to see how these things start to play out. And so I feel like that's where my influence comes in, to be able to explain things a little bit more realistically, and to be able to make people see kind of like the thought process behind it. Because sometimes the thought process is very strange, especially coming from that man in the White House, because he's
Ex-
crazy.
Exactly. And I appreciate you doing that. And I want to thank everyone who has joined us here today. And that's kind of what I do. Like, my approach is I love, facilitating community conversations with people. And, so I've been doing that with the Good Trouble Chat for Advocacy Arena for like over 5 years now. It's just bringing people from different parts of the country, some, in other countries, talking about the news and talking about their locale, what's going on. And usually these are people who are civically engaged and they help to inform the community, but they also are inspiring for other people in the community. I can't tell you how many times people have told me that they've been inspired to act and to get involved in things locally, because I think sometimes people feel like they have no control. So that's all they do is bitch. And so these people make a perfect place for them to land. And if they, unplug a little bit from that and think about the things that are happening around them, and what they can do, and who is affecting that, because I know a lot of people don't even like politics at all. So that's a big thing for me, trying to help people who have that kind of feeling, to understand, like, you don't have to know all about it and be, consumed with it, but just understand it affects your life whether you care about it or not, and
Exactly.
and try to encourage them to get engaged in some way, like watch your city council meeting, know who your civic, leaders are in your locale, and if people are running, know what they stand for, know what their track record is, because I feel like people think that even though we have this structure of government, some of these people act like when people are appointed to, especially president or Congress or whatever, they can just get up there and just wave a magic wand and do whatever they want to do. And it's like, no, there are rules, there are laws, even though these people break them all the time.
All of it.
There are laws. And I think the more that people get involved, the more they'll want to get involved, and the more understanding that comes with that. So, as we come to a close here, I just kind of want to encourage people to make sure that they do protect their peace, but also stay informed and engaged. Like, this is a time when I feel like all of the kind of negativity that is created with a lot of these talking heads, it just really, people bitch and then they just withdraw, like they don't care anymore, like they just want to gripe, get their gripe out, and they're done with politics. And I feel like they help to foster and create apathy, and that's
And that's
what
it.
I don't like.
Yeah, I think that's the part. I mean, if you're going to be informative, great. If you're going to listen, we all complain. We all have our
Yeah.
moments of complain. I love to complain about Trump and the foolishness that he does and things that I see and the things that the left say. I mean, we all have our grievances, but if 90% of what you're saying is grievance, then the 10% that you are doing that's positive gets overshadowed with the grievance. So maybe switch that up. Like you could have 10%. I mean, I probably have, if you listen to us on Wednesday, I definitely had my grievances on Wednesday. I was in a mood on Wednesday about a whole lot of stuff that pissed me off, right? Because we hadn't talked in so long. So it was like, okay, well, we're gonna go for it. But there's and you kind of know the different formats of where who your audience is and certain things. And I just feel like people, yeah, you don't have to know the inner workings of everything, but you can't go outside and see gas prices up and be like, screw politics. This is caused because of politics. Every single facet of your life has something to do with a political decision or something that has cause and effect. And we really need people to understand that, because who you put in office, whether it's on your local level, state level, municipality, the federal government is a whole different total beast. But if you don't care about the federal government, at least care about your local government, because that's where your police, your schools, all of these things are being decided at
Your road conditions.
your roads, your bridges, all of these things, your taxes, all of these things are being driven by the politics of your state, good or bad. And that's just what it is. So it was great talking to you, Miss D, as always.
Likewise, and we thank all of you guys for joining us. I promise I've got an eye appointment coming up here, but we've had some folks engage in the chat. We really thank you for coming, supporting us, and chatting on all the platforms. I see folks here on X, and folks from Substack, and folks from Spoutable, so and YouTube. So we are expanding our reach, and we appreciate the support that you guys are giving us wherever you are supporting us from. Tiff and I do this every 2 weeks because there is something to be fired up about. But at the end of the day, Tiff and I both care about civics and civic engagement. And I think sometimes people, like I said, we just like to talk like regular folks do, and about things that are going on. And I think, I may have told you this once, but I miss my mom. But we used to have on Saturday, she and my uncle and I would just gather on her sun porch. watch the birds, and have our coffee, and we would just talk politics, but we talk about family and stuff, but what was going on. And so I feel like this, when I come and chat with you, and when Myron joins in with us, it reminds me of that conversation that
Same.
I was having with my mom and my uncle, and I miss that. And I want people to be comfortable talking about politics, because
Right.
it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to be brilliant and know all the ins and outs, but you need to know that it affects you and talk about how it's affecting you. And then, you can learn some stuff.
Exactly, Ms. D. Yeah, I do too. My family's the same way. When we get together, it's like all politics. They love talking about politics. I'm the opposite. Like I don't really want to talk about this, because then they start asking me a whole bunch of questions. Like some stuff I don't even know. Like the thing is with like social media, you don't really know who's following you. So my mom, she tells me, she's like goes to my uncle's funeral, and I wasn't able to go. So she's talking to my aunt, and she's like, "Your cousin, you're just let Tiff know that your cousin, who I don't even talk to. I mean, he's like he's old. I haven't seen him in forever, like weddings and kind of thing. Like he loves her watching her shows." And I'm like, I didn't even know my cousin followed me. Like they because they don't comment. You know what I mean? Like your family
Right.
doesn't always like, and they might be under a different name, a different alias. You don't know that they're engaging with you, but they're still supporting you. So I love that, because I was like, well, I guess I'm good at it, because he's watching it, so he likes it. But you just really don't know who's engaged. But that's how my family, it sounds like your family is the same. We just love to talk about politics. And sometimes, like I said, I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to be left alone.
Exactly. And so now that we have had our political discussion for this Fired Up Friday, Miss D is going to go out onto the balcony and dig in some dirt again, and have some joy. Like I planted a few seeds, right? I said, oh, I'm going to grow a few herbs and a couple of flowers, and, maybe, a couple of vegetables, whatever. And I had no idea, which I should know. I grew up with gardeners and farmers and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure the quality of the seeds. So, I had my little planters and everything, and I was like, I'm going to drop 2 or 3 seeds in here. So, I should get one. Girl, I got little seedlings everywhere.
Oh my goodness. You have things growing from places that they shouldn't be growing.
I got all kinds of things growing. I just hope I can keep them healthy. And I'm going to be doing some updates about that, and writing an essay, because that really does also take me back to my family, my mom and stuff, who was always digging in the dirt, growing food and flowers, and my grandma. So you guys can look forward to that. If you're not following Tiff and I, please follow us. She's Candidly Tiff on all the platforms that she's on. She's on
Everything.
yeah, she's on TikTok and a lot of the Meta platforms, IG. Miss D is only on Blue Sky, Substack, the Hellscape, formerly known as Twitter, and Spoutable. But follow me there, and just check me out on the podcast advocacy arena, trying to bring you good content and information, and not inundate you too much, but just encourage you and nudge you to stay informed and stay engaged. So until the next 2 weeks, we will see you then, and want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of the afternoon and weekend, and a happy Easter if you celebrate.
I said happy Easter as well.
All right.
All right, Ms.
Bye-bye.
Z. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.